Once upon a time, there was the son of Mariano Felipe, Tanner, and his wife, Mona Esmeralda, named Alessandro de Mariano Giovanni Felipe. The future painter was born in March 1, 1445 in Florence, and he was the youngest among four children, with a difference of 24 years between him and his older brother.
He is nicknamed Sandro Botticelli, but the exact origin of the name is unknown. One of the theories would be that Botticelli, small barrel, would have come from the nickname of his brother Giovanni, who was very fond of drinks, and Sandro would come from the diminutive of Alessandro.
His education was equal to all craftsmen, being able to do accounts and to read. From the beginning, he showed interest in Dante and his work Divine Comedy, that influenced many of his works. In 1458, the boy started in the profession of goldsmith, but soon decided to change the metals by the pens, and around 1461 or 1462 began to study painting.
Botticelli entered the workshop of Friar Filippo Lippi, one of the most sought-after teachers in Florence at the time. The friar had a son with a nun. The boy is called Filippino, who later became a disciple of Botticelli and a rival painter. Lippi died in 1469, and so Botticelli had to turn around.
Botticelli is a true child of the 15th century, and therein lies his importance and his peculiar charm. In its Florentine art from the last phase of the century reaches the pinnacle of perfection. Wilhelm von Both in 1921.
At the age of 25, Botticelli opened an atelier on the ground floor of his father's house. He worked surrounded by a family of 20 noisy boys, and as a teacher, inclined to jokes. Beside the atelier worked a weaver that worked making a deafening noise that prevented the concentration of the artist. Unwillingly, begged the neighbor to reduce the noise, but it didn't work, and then Botticelli hung a gigantic stone on the outer wall, which threatened to fall at any moment on the weaver's house. It was enough to be able to paint in peace.
He had his artistic career linked to the Medici family. The support was indispensable considering that there were two ateliers disputing the orders. In the rival atelier, there was a painter named Piero Polaiolo, who was testing Botticelli.
In 1470, Sandro received his first document order. It was to elaborate a figure of the fortress to compose a series of 7 virtues that would adorn the council chamber of the Merchants' Corporation. Piero del Polaiolo had been commissioned to create the whole series and complete some figures. However, through the intervention of a ruling friend, Lorenzo de' Medici, the Magnificent, the fortress passed into the hands of Botticelli, opened the way for other important orders. However, Piero was able to recover the Order of Virtues and complete the remaining 5 works in 1472.
In some of the works of Sandro Botticelli, we can perceive its trace of grace, delicacy, and figures that refer to a certain sentimentality. But they do not fail to reveal also strong realistic tendencies. In a good part of the painting, one can perceive the valorization of the human body and of the nature.
Botticelli lived in a generation of naturalists and could have been just another naturalist. There are in his works several characteristics of this living sense of other things, which in the paintings of that period fill the lawns with delicate creatures and streams on the hillsides. But was not enough for him. He is a visionary painter, and in this ability resembles him Dutch. Walter Pater, 1873.
It is understood that the work Primavera 1477 reveals many of the ideals of Renaissance, since it is the theme of the work and its title is the Renaissance season, rebirth of flowers and also fecundity is linked just as the period was fecund of the Renaissance.
The central figure refers us to the classical ideal of beauty retaking principle of classical antiquity. The three graces represent grace in this period of progress. The presence of Mercury represents the revival of commerce in this period when a new class, the bourgeoisie, was on the rise.
In his many evocations of the origin of poetry, spring is ultimately one of the most sublimely evocative, associative, allusive, and profoundly imaginative visions of the Italian Renaissance, perhaps in this history of art, poetry, and imagination. Paul Barowski, 2000.
By the 1480s, all his rivals had left Florence with only Botticelli left. With the death of Lorenzo the Magnificent in 1492, the career of Botticelli began to fall into decay. Botticelli began to dedicate himself to meditation, living almost in reclusion, and paint exclusively religious themes in an increasingly personal and somber style.
Orders were scarce. In 1502, Botticelli was charged with homosexuality, but the charge was dismissed for lack of evidence. Botticelli is not married, but there is no news of any romantic involvement with other men. Sandro remained faithful to his Florentine district of Ognissanti and the house that had been of his parents, where he came to pass away in 1510.